Hi, our guests today are Selectman Brian Murray, who's here in his capacity as Chairman of the Armory Renovation Committee, and Mike Walsh, who's Chairman of the Milford Youth Commission. And guys, would like to talk to you about the progress of construction and the reconstruction, I should say, of the Armory Modern Youth Center, how the progress is and how it's affecting the program. So,
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Well,
So
we're looking forward to all the information you're going to give us.
Sure.
we know
Yeah.
construction started in October, and what's
Let
happened?
me give you a little brief overview of kind of where we're at. We got an appropriation from town meeting in May for approximately $4.5 million. At that point, we put the project out to bid. Subcontractors bid first, then the GCs bid. We got a very good contractor, which we think, RAC Builders, located in Agawam, Massachusetts. Contracts were signed in September, and they mobilized October 13th,
Wow.
which was a pretty quick turnaround, I think, on a construction project
It
of
is,
that magnitude.
without
Sure.
question.
They hit the ground running. They started the demolition process right away, and that's kind of where they're at right now. Just really tearing out all of the old walls and pipes and everything else that's been in there for over 100 years.
You found something interesting while they were tearing things down.
They did, yes, they did, and unfortunately we can't drink it. It looks like it was already consumed, but usually on the, I guess on the first week of demolition,
Right.
the contractor, when they tore down the ceiling of the first floor, between the ceiling and the floorboards of the second floor, they found this bottle of Nipmuc Rich and Mellow whiskey, bottled and guaranteed by Patrick H. Gillen and Company, Milford, Mass. And interestingly enough, the cork is still in the bottle. I think it's in great shape. So, that building was built probably in 1910, 1911. So I was talking to Mike, I guess at that time, one of the carpenters probably took a little bit of a break and had to get back to work before he could discard his lunch and just tossed it up in the ceiling.
And where's this going to wind up, in the historical museum, or?
I had thought about that originally, but I think what I'd like to do now is probably do a little bit of research to see what I can find out about this Nipmuc distillery. And what I'd like to do is make a shadow box and put it at the Armory with a little write-up of the history on this and where it was found. I think it would be a nice accent piece
Right.
to the
Very
Armory.
much.
The dedication, that'll be super.
I think so.
Dedicate a bottle of booze. No, you don't want to do that at a youth center. I don't
But
think
we
that
just
would
want to tell the kids it's okay to look at, don't drink.
happen.
But,
That's right.
So basically, they're still in the tear down phase?
Absolutely. If you were to go in there now, it would be barely recognizable on the first floor. All of the walls are taken down. They're getting into the gymnasium right now. The balcony's been taken down, right down to the studs, the framework. It's really opened up the center, the Armory, and I think you can get a real picture of what this new open floor plan is going to be like and what it's going to mean to the youth center when they finally take occupancy.
And what's the estimated completion time?
Probably next September. The target is to be done before Labor Day so that the Youth Commission can get in when school starts. Unfortunately, we most recently have discovered some structural issues which may or may not delay the project, but we still feel pretty comfortable with a pre-Labor Day finish date.
You're talking about a building that's 90 years old? 80 to 90 years old?
At least.
Yeah, 1911.
So it's not
1911
hard
construction.
to, well, that makes it 100 years old if my math is correct. but-
Yeah, 1911.
So it's not inconceivable that when you started tearing into things, you'd find some structural problems.
Oh, we knew that was going to happen, and of course, the problem, Kevin, you know, I mean, there's no plans as what had been done in terms of renovation. It was always property of the state up until 2007.
Let's face it, they didn't put a lot of money into it.
They really didn't, and I think it looked like a series of home improvement projects from probably 1920 on, and you just don't know how these things were done. But you know, once we got behind some of the walls, unfortunately there were some structural beams that were just cut, pipes were put there, some support trusses were just cut. You know, the kind of work that was done was certainly not up to code. But I think that's the way the state did it, you know, the Armory, they probably projects and, you
Well,
know.
probably what they did was to have some of the service guys that were there say, okay, this weekend you're gonna
Exactly.
put this wall up or do that. And
Anybody know how to do,
Exactly.
Yeah.
use the
In reference to
hammer
what Brian's saying, one of the major structural beams, they literally cut it to run a pipe through it,
nail? I've seen that in older houses, so.
you know?
You know, a plumber would come along and, you know, you had a coal furnace and they need to run a modern ductwork and they just went right through whatever was there and you know, they don't care if that holds the building up, they're going through it. But, so Mike, the youth center is now on Congress Street in a
Yes.
rented building.
Yes.
How is the renovation impacting their program?
Well, I mean, if you drive by the new youth center, you'll see where they had a fence off, you know, parking lot area so the children have an outside area to play, and they fenced it off so the balls won't go out into Congress Street. I mean, it's hampered their activities a little bit, but if you have an opportunity, you should really go into it because they've done a great job with the space they have. They're using all 3 floors of it, and they got a computer room, homework room. They got their pool tables all set up and everything.
Really?
So, oh yeah, they're really.
So there's
doing-
no big gym to run around in
There
anymore,
isn't
but
a
they have
gym.
other places?
No, that's why we take them outside when we can and get them outside activity.
Okay.
well, they're close to the park there too. Very close, so it's a short distance. to the
I just
park.
wondered if it was, you know, really hampering the program for a year. They still have the same number of kids?
It's down a little bit. It's not much, but it's down a little bit. But we haven't had the real cold. Once the real cold comes in, they really start coming in. But the other thing is, we're not right across the street from the school.
Right.
A lot of the
This makes
children
it
come
right.
right across, right in from school, you know, so.
Yeah, they usually hit the library on one side or the youth center on the other, or
Right.
both.
Exactly. So, but it's still flourishing, so. And they're anxious to get into the new building.
Okay. So, what can you tell us about what it's going to look like?
I think probably the most dramatic change is going to be on the front doors. I think if you know, over the past few years, actually as long as I can remember that we've used it, they've used the side door
Right.
as kind of the main entrance. That's going to change. We're going to go back to the original doors as the main entrance. And what's going to happen is the granite little porch or landing area right now is going to be removed. That's going to drop the level down approximately 2 feet. What we're going to do is extend the doorway down another 2 feet, so it's going to be even more dramatic of an entrance. That's going to help us stabilize the grades on the outside going in. It helps with handicap accessibility issues. It's going to it's going to obviate the need for a very obtrusive ramp area. We'll have the necessary grade for accessibility issues to get in there. It's going to make a very dramatic opening. Glass doors are going to be replacing the existing wood doors to really get that open feeling. As you walk in those front doors, instead of that ramp going up, there'll be a vestibule landing with a handicap accessible elevator right there to the left. And then that's going to provide access to the basement, obviously the main floor, and then the top floor.
Okay, so there's going to be an elevator in there.
Oh, gosh,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that we had done, one of the original plans in the foyer was to have almost like a chair lift. But then we thought of the person that would be on that, and we figured, you know, you're better off to get them into an elevator, give them access to all the floors. And
Well, those
you know,
seem to break all the time. The
Yeah.
maintenance on those things are nightmarish.
Yeah.
And no one seems to understand how to operate them. So an elevator works much better because
Yeah, and right now you had the lift out in the parking lot that people were using.
Yeah, and that's, you know, of minimal value.
Right.
You know, so this is a much more, I think, solid inviting opening. So that's what will be seen as you first enter. You know, there will be a staircase to get up to that main floor, and like I said, the elevator on the left for the accessibility issues.
But you're still preserving some of the features, like the interior staircase where the kids had written the name of books.
Correct.
Is staying.
Correct. We have that protected. They actually have that. The contractor has covered that in plywood
Oh,
to
wow.
protect it, you know, from the construction process. Because, you know, that'll get damaged. I mean, the place is getting torn apart. They're going to try to preserve as much of the spindle staircase railing as possible,
Good.
but also extend it to, again, make it code compliant.
Yeah.
So there's going to be kind of a reworking of that. But you're right, as many of the original components as possible, you know, we're looking to preserve.
I mean, the sad thing is, when you look back at that construction budget, almost 90% of it is just bringing the building to modern sprinkler code, building code.
That's really what drove the project, you know, fire, building, accessibility. You
Yeah,
know, those are really the three
And
prongs.
I remember looking at the breakdown at town meeting, and I think, you know, you're in the millions on building reconstruction, then you were in the 100,000 level on actually like renovating the gym and things like that. So
Well, the dilemma is,
Right.
once you go over 50% on any building project, you have to meet current codes.
Oh, it's
And that-
30%.
30%, I'm sorry.
Once you go over 30% of the
Bingo.
assessed value, then you have to
You
get
go
code
right-
compliant.
But actually, we're going to have a good modern building that'll last for decades.
Oh, without question.
Absolutely.
But
Where
Ca-
you
Ca-
really had, I mean, let's face it, we were bubble gum and baling wire fixing
Yeah.
that place.
But Kevin, to go back to the stairs, the architectural firm that we chose, one of the main reasons that we went with them, if Brian remembers, we went through all the interviewing process. When it was their turn, the gentleman from the firm got up and he said, I just need to ask you one question before I start. And he clicked on a PowerPoint presentation, a picture of the stairs. He goes, why would you tear these down? And we all were just like looking, and that's where he started. And from that point, they had us.
They had you.
Yeah, and that's exact to what
Well,
Brian
they got
said.
the building.
They're to the point now where they're even working on taking the original front doors,
Yes.
and they want to take them and put them
Someplace
up
else.
somewhere on the back wall of the stage, mounted, so that as you come in through glass doors,
You'll see them
you'll
straight
still
ahead.
see
Oh, wow.
something, you know, you can take and resemble the old Armory building.
Well, most people don't realize how much space is in that armory.
Huge.
Holy moly. I mean, that place has just got cubby holes in places all over that couldn't be used before, realistically.
Right.
Now it's going to bring that stuff available for usage. It's just fantastic. I mean, a town couldn't ask for a better place for a youth center. I mean,
Right.
really.
I mean,
Fantastic.
it just works so well. I mean, it's, you know, one building in from Main Street, near the middle school, near the library, across from Town Hall, near Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, it just fits so well. And
Perfect.
Yeah.
to think of tearing that down was just,
It would be a sin, particularly when you're talking about that kind of architecture. You know, that's 8-inch thick granite block. You know, brick interior aligning up against that granite block. Now that, you know, a lot of the plaster has been exposed, you can really see what that stonework is.
Yeah.
It's classic. It's priceless. I mean, you just
You can't replace
you
that.
can't replace that.
it's not a
today.
facade like.
It's not a facade.
The Consigli building was the old, I can't remember the name of the school.
St. Mary's Grammar School.
St. Mary's Grammar School,
Yeah.
but that was actually
Yeah.
a facade of granite. That was not the 8-inch thick blocks. And this is a real, well-built building.
It is.
It just was neglected.
It was. It was. Yeah.
Well, the
It
other
really
day
was.
in our meeting, showed us pictures. They had knocked down the ceiling that was in the ammunition room. How thick was the ceiling, Brian? 10 inches?
8-inch.
8
It was
inches
a 8-inch
concrete.
thick concrete vault down
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
well,
basement.
right. For
Well, it was an armory.
It was an
Vault,
armory.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, so that was exposed.
Well, you
and-
had that steel plate down the basement they used to shoot against.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it had a full rifle range downstairs.
That's right, that's right, yeah. So that was turned into one of the batting cages.
Which
you
is
know.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
the space utilization down there is just going to be fantastic. I mean, it's going to be a resource that not only the youth center will be taking advantage of, but the rest of the town will be other areas that other people
Absolutely.
will be,
Yeah.
which is really, really good because not many towns have a facility that's available the size of this one that's available for everybody to use.
That is something. We know a lot of groups, probably far more than people realized, were using the building.
Right.
Do you anticipate a lot more people using it when it's done?
Well, that's a great question, because I was just going to say, one of the things that came out with town meeting, as we approach town meeting members, these seniors that are on town meeting floor, a lot of them didn't know that the youth center was accessible to them.
Oh, really?
We want that. We want it to be used. In other words, in the winter, they want to walk. They can walk inside. We have a full gym with treadmills and exercise equipment, nautilus equipment. Some of it's state of the art. It was all donated to us.
Right.
We want it used, and so we want all citizens of Milford to be using that youth center.
Now, what are the acoustics going to be like in there, the gymnasium?
Well, right now, in fact, they asked, there's, I don't know if you know, but there's a black acoustic fabric.
Well, it's there for several reasons.
Yeah, that was put in. I remember, because I was on the school committee at the time, and we underwent through Project Excel. And while Stacy's school was being done, we relocated 12 classrooms in the gymnasium of the youth center. And after the first day, the teachers, because there were no ceilings, there were just partitions that were put up about 12 feet, and that was it, and it was all open. The teachers came to us and says, "My God, you have to do something. This is, the sound was bouncing all over the place." So Ken Dinesco, they came in, I remember we all came in, looked at it, and that's where they came up with the acoustic fabric tile, the fabric that's in there right now, a lot of it which is torn away. We're going to have acoustic tiles placed in strategic areas to try to deflect the sound. All that fabric's going to be removed. The trusses are going to be painted, the ceiling's going to be painted, and there's going to be new acoustic tile that's going to be placed strategically to try to deflect the sound.
Okay. Just curious about it, because there are a lot of events that could be held in there. That
Absolutely.
There's this nice stage in there. There's all kinds of things that can be done in there. I mean, right now, for example, Claflin Hill uses the town hall. I don't know what's available, how they can do that, but there's more concerts that could be held. There's all kinds of things that could be done with that.
There's no question about it.
It's
There's no question
fantastic.
about it. I think the use is just going to explode exponentially.
I absolutely believe you're correct.
And like Mike says, you're going to get groups in there that you're probably not even thinking about right now.
Right.
And I told Sydney, I said, you're going to have a different challenge once this place comes online. You're going to have the challenge of having to say no to some people, because otherwise you're going to be overscheduled and this and that. So,
Well, it might be a nice steady revenue stream. I mean, that's the other challenge the youth center always faced, was how to survive without town funding. And it's only in the last couple of years you guys got the town to pick up the utilities.
Right.
Well,
It used to be just the director salary.
This is going to be great, because I think it's going to help the youth center on other aspects too, from a revenue stream. I mean, it's really going to, probably will bring it in, hopefully bring it into self-supporting. So, I mean, the benefits from this investment are tremendous. Plus, in my mind, one of the things that all communities are short on is reinvesting in their infrastructure.
Yes.
And this goes to that very issue, reinvestment in infrastructure in the town. I think it's a very positive action for Milford to take.
That's a good point, Al, because I was asked the day that the Fields project opened up on a Sunday and the lacrosse games were going on, and I went up just to view. I was just standing there all by myself, and one of the coaches was coming off, and he had a gentleman from another town with him, and he brought him over and he introduced him to me and said, "This is a school committee member from Milford," and he looked right at me. He says, you people are so lucky in this town, because he said, we would never get something. He pointed to the field. Well, now I point to the youth center when it's done. It's the same thing. People don't realize how lucky we are in this town, what we have.
And if somebody lives in a neighboring town, I'm always in awe of the fact you have, a beautiful senior center, a new youth center coming online, the athletic facilities, the school facilities when the new
Memorial
Woodland
Hall
is done. They're second to none.
Right.
But the idea of, let's face it, Milford has a different population than surrounding towns. The youth center is needed.
Right.
But it really goes to a core issue that the nation is facing, and Milford would be a prime example of how to focus on that. The leadership in the community is one that says we have to reinvest in our infrastructure. And that's where the whole country should be going. But you guys are a shining example of that reinvestment. And to the leadership, the elected officials, the selectmen, those are all positive aspects of this community that most people don't realize. it's a real struggle for you guys to make that move,
Sure,
to push that
sure.
agenda through.
Oh, yeah,
It's not an
yeah.
easy thing.
Yeah, but the four of us
Yeah.
sitting here are all elected officials, and we know you can do a lot of good sitting in those seats, or you can do a lot of harm.
That's absolutely.
What do you choose to do?
Yeah, that's
We
absolutely.
choose
the
to
case.
help.
And that's,
Yeah.
But you know, in this particular building, I think, what were you serving, 300 youth, 400 youth? I
Well,
mean,
daily we were serving 100.
You probably, what do you think you're going to do when the
I
new
should
center
say the
opens?
after-school program.
Right.
But
Right.
by the end of the day, with the programs that are in there, 300-400 a day.
What do you think you'll do when the building's renovated?
Oh, that's a hard number to say, but I mean, I know we're going to have a huge,
I anticipate that center being open 7 days a week,
oh, absolutely.
because the demand will be
It will
there.
eventually get to that point, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the floor, just the athletic floor, is going to have multiple uses.
right.
It's not just being laid out as a basketball court.
I mean, there are going to be uses that we really can't envision, and I
Right,
saw that with the senior center. We tried to make it open, multi-purpose spaces so that as the Council on Aging grew into the building, they could use the space as programs allowed. And you've seen that over years, you know, it's gone from, you know, there's been areas where there's a store, computer rooms, art rooms, game rooms, you know, and now they're looking to expand to have a fitness room. The same thing is going to happen at the youth center, and again, we're trying to project open space that's multi-purpose, so that it'll be functional in the future for whatever programs might come forth, stuff we can't even envision or think
Right.
about.
Well, I know you had batting cages, you had wrestling in there, you had scout programs in there. I'm just looking at you know, what could possibly come in. I mean,
I mean, the things that
It's endless.
the things that'll be able to be utilized, that space will be able to utilize for, is just fantastic. As you say, Brian, you can't even imagine what they are today.
Right.
And it's going to move from a youth center to a center, a town center. It's not going to be
Community
just
center.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's going to be a community
Community
center,
center.
which is going to be fantastic. And it's centrally located. It's great. It's, you know, so people, you know, one of the things it's going to reinvigorate the center of town. I think.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be very
A-
positive for the
Absolutely.
town.
And again, I compare it so often to the senior center, if you folks remember, that was a dump.
that
You know,
was a shoe factory that burned down.
The shoe factories had gone, there was contaminated soil there, they removed the tank, but they never removed the oil. So it was, and that whole area of town was not very nice. And I remember we had criticism, why are you building it down there? It's not a nice area, it's gonna be awful. And I would say that's the first step to revitalizing that area.
Yes.
That area is kind of a nice area now.
Sure is.
And, you know, like you're talking about over at the Armory, again, that's even, you know, closer to the center of town. And it's just gonna be that much more of a spark plug for your, you know, your whole downtown area.
Well, it was to some extent, for a while, became almost an eyesore.
Yes.
But it's going to move it out of that, and that's one of the things that stick out in that area. So once that's revitalized, that's going to be a beautiful area of town. The history that's around that is fantastic.
I also look at, though, it's a safe haven
Yes.
for a lot of, let's face it, you know, the majority of people today, you have working couples. It's a safe haven for people to send their children. You know, we're all old enough to remember the idle hands or the devil's workshop adage and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to Chief O'Laughlin, he'll tell you he's glad it's there. It's a safe haven for kids to go to after school with positive role models, with
Sure.
other kids, as opposed to wandering the neighborhoods, looking
Yeah.
for something to do. And it's constructive activity, and it's physical activity. In an age where a lot of kids are glued to video games, you get physical activity
Right.
there. But I've seen you know, I'm a big fan of it. I've seen the educational programs on eating healthy and not eating junk food. I've seen, you know, the wrestling program, anything from playing the old Foursquare game to the dance off with the video game program to get some exercise.
Yeah, sure.
It's good programming.
Sure. Yeah, there's all kinds of things going on there.
Place for them to come and watch TV. You know, good TV or good, you know, just a place where they can get safe entertainment with some guidance is a step, a very large step in a positive direction. I mean,
Well, as a young lady, one night we were on the Crier show, and a young lady, 10-year-old girl, she looked at him, she said, Mr. Crier, she said, people have to understand that some of us, this is home.
yes.
When we get out of school, this is home. This is a safe place to go to try and figure out sometimes what's really going on in my life. I'm a 10-year-old, you know?
And that was the story that we had to tell, because these last 2 annual town meetings, you know, they weren't slam dunks.
No.
You know,
No.
I mean, there was certainly some undercurrents of opposition, and, you know, Mike and all of the youth commission community worked very, very hard.
And the kids.
And to get the kids out there front and center to really kind of campaign for it. And, you know, I think I said at a town meeting, you know, what more do we want our kids doing? You know,
Yeah,
here they are
absolutely.
advocating for an improvement to the community, you know, asking folks to really step forward and improve the community. You're getting the kids involved. I thought it was great, you know. So
I think part of the problem is you get a perception, if you don't have a kid going there, if you don't go there, it's, well, those kids. And in reality, it was a cross-section of the town where everybody's kids were going there.
Absolutely, because once you get through with the afternoon programs, in the evening, the targeted programs come in. I mean, both of my daughters, high school varsity softball players, would have their practices there.
Right.
Varsity basketball, JV basketball, freshman basketball, they would have practices
During
there.
school vacation
During
week, you'd have
school
the clinics
vacations,
put
yep.
on by the high school coaches.
Yep.
Right.
So, you know, I know softball, I know basketball. I mean, I know you have wrestling down
Yeah,
there.
boxing.
All of the different sports,
Yeah.
you know, so they'll go down
I
and
know
do targeted
Sydney-
programs.
Sidney DeJesus, the director, he's got in his head, you know, that little area on the plans for the boxing ring. I know he's trying to
Yes.
raise the money.
Oh, that's right.
Most people don't realize he's a Golden Gloves boxer.
I don't think
Correct.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Yep, and he's got experience, and he and I have talked long and hard about that. You have the I can't remember the,
Taekwondo, there's.
no, I was thinking of the, I can't remember the term Fridays that they have,
Oh, Find Yourself Friday.
thank you, Find Yourself Friday, where the
Fridays, yeah.
kids run their own programs and raise money for charity. I don't think people realize
Right.
all the good things going on there,
Right.
but,
Well, that's why we say all the time, well, once the construction is done, come in. When the center's open, come in. We want you to come in and see all the good things that really do go on there, and there's a lot of them, you know, a lot of them.
A lot of fantastic stuff that goes
Yeah.
on down there.
Yeah.
And it's been for a long time, those things have been going on, a long time. And it's been building and building and building. Yeah, it's super.
Yeah.
and now let's give the finance committee something to chew on from the years to come. You have 2 full-time employees right now. Sid and Jen. Do you anticipate, as the use grows, building that staff up?
Well, the first thing that I've indicated to the town administrator, we need to get a full-time custodian into this upcoming budget.
Want to maintain.
Well, that's
those-
true to
those-
maintain
right.
what you've now
Yes,
have.
they need to have a full-time custodian, because this is going to be interior-wise and really exterior. It's going to be state-of-the-art. It's going to be a beautiful building. To not assign a full-time custodian to a building like that, to me, would be foolish. So I've already talked to the town administrator. We're trying to work that into the budget for this upcoming year. So I think that's the first step, Kevin, really, you know, to preserve
That I
the
agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a brand-new building and let it
And
go
then
to
not
seed.
maintain it.
Right,
Right.
right.
Absolutely.
And we just can't be asking the director and the assistant director to be,
Mopping the floors every
Right.
night.
right, you know, it's just, I mean, there's gonna be kids, and they've got programs, and we're concerned about safety, so that's the first step. In terms of programs with the Youth Commission, I mean, they're, whatever they can grow into,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, this
But-
gives you guys a whole new thing to look at.
Right, but I think also we can never lose sight of first of all, J.D. Antonio, who had the insight to start it,
Yes.
and then Paul Seaver, who came along, you know, and carried on with it.
And it will still be the J.D. Antonio Youth Center with the Paul Seaver Gymnasium.
Right,
with the
Exactly.
new-
but those two gentlemen had the foresight to see it, set it up, and hopefully we'll carry it on to where it needs to be.
Okay. Well, guys, we're running out of time here. Can we get you back, let's say, closer to September to give us an update on where
Sure,
things
sure,
are going? you know,
absolutely.
Glad to
July
come
or
back.
That's
August,
great.
Mike.
That's
and
right.
give you an update?
Sure,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, appreciate it.
Our pleasure.